What's going on, people? Welcome back to the channel. So I know I said that I wouldn't be making another video until tomorrow's match against Livingston, but I thought I would do a generalised video today, and that is about these people who run Celtic Football Club who shouldn't be there and ways we can get rid of them, because I don't believe that the board can't be removed. I think that's completely outrageous. I don't agree with that at all. You can still get rid of people who run your football club, even if you're being successful in your domestic league. I don't agree with that at all. But yeah, the board are selfish. They are lazy. As I've said so many times before, they don't care about us. You know, they hate us. I fucking can't stand them. You know, they're so fucking lazy, all of them. You know, Michael Nicholson, what exactly has this guy done since he took over as chief executive? Absolutely fuck all. Never come out and spoken to the fans, just like Peter Lawwell did before. Peter Lawwell is not on the board. He's a non-director. He's the chairman, supposedly. I don't agree with that. I think Peter Lawwell still has a lot of power in that boardroom. It's ridiculous. This guy, during 2020, cost us 10 in a row by not investing, letting Rangers take over. You know, we should have won that league. You know, we should have won 10 in a row if it wasn't for Peter Lawwell, Dermot Desmond and the board. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, it's just outrageous how thick these people actually are. You know, Dermot Desmond as well, majority shareholder. You know, he's got 37% of the club shares. You know, it's bloody ridiculous. You know, this guy he attends games, but he's just an arsehole. You know, he really is a dickhead. He doesn't say anything to the supporters, just like the rest of them. You know, you've got Sharon Brown, you've got, you know, Chris Mackay as well. You've got all these people on the board who are just lazy fuckers, who never come out and actually speak to the supporters. They're all fucking useless. But yeah, ways to get rid of them. So, merchandise. Why are people buying merchandise from these people? You know, these people are a disgrace, you know, to us. You know, they don't want us to progress in Europe, so why should we give them any more money? And before any happy clappers come on and say, well, support your team, this is not about that. You can support your team, but have ambition as well. You know, I don't see a problem with that, you know. But yeah, if anybody's not bought any merchandise from Celtic this season, do not buy anything. You know, if they, you know, send you an email and say, oh, well, we're offering a kit for £50, for example, don't get it. You know, the home kit, the away kit, training kits, whatever it is, don't give these people any money. And do it over a sustained period of time. You know, it may take a while. It might take a number of years. It might take 10 years. But at least don't give Celtic any money. So that's one reason. Merchandise, don't give them any money. Mass protests. You know, there should be mass protests taking place at every single home game and every single away game. Even if we're winning domestically, even if, despite what's happening on the pitch, you know, we need to just complain at these people. Mass protests. Everybody gets into high numbers and protests against the board and to tell them that we've had enough of their nonsense. To be honest, they're not doing us any favours. They're not doing themselves any favours. They're not doing Rodgers any favours. They're just selfish people who are more interested in running Celtic as a business and not as a football club. It's outrageous. So yeah, protests need to happen on a regular basis. As I said, you know, Celtic fan groups like the Celtic Trust, the Green Brigade, you know, there's like the boys, there's loads of groups that go to Celtic on a regular basis, you know, but the club don't give them the opportunity to voice their concerns. Really, it's ridiculous, you know. Hijacking the AGM is what another thing we should be doing, you know, making sure the board don't get into the AGM, you know, protesting outside. You know, I'm not saying beat people up and stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying. Obviously, don't do that. But at the same time, you know, protesting at the AGM where the board will be, you know, for no fucking reason. You know, I don't understand why the AGM even takes place, because it's just for them to be re-elected. They never say anything to the supporters. You know, we're not even allowed to go into the AGM. That's how outrageous it actually is. So yeah, the AGM needs to be hijacked, but peacefully, no violence, you know. I know it's annoying, you know, it's very frustrating, you know. I want to be in a room with them and swear at them, because what exactly do they do for us? They do fuck all. But, you know, you've got to go about it in a peaceful way. There's loads of reasons why, you know, those are 3 reasons I can think of at the moment, to be honest. Not going to games is another option, you know. I don't want us to do that, you know. But, you know, a boycott may be a possibility. A mass boycott, you know, attendance is going right down, from 55,000 to, I'd say, about 10,000. I can't see that happening, unfortunately. I think there's too many fans who are too loyal to the team to do that. Personally, if I was a season ticket holder, which I'm not, thank goodness, because, if I was a season ticket holder and I was there every single week, I'd be going absolutely mental at the board. I would have been going mental a few days ago against Kira Almaty in the Champions League qualifier. But yeah, that won't happen, unfortunately, but that is another option. Not going to games, just not bothering, basically. Why should we give them any more of our time? It's ridiculous. I can't stand them. They're selfish people who are only interested in your wallet. It's ridiculous. The way they've treated the fans this season is just disgraceful. Charging extra money on top of the season ticket money is just ridiculous when people just don't have it. For the Newcastle friendly, which they should have given the fans free entry, that was outrageous. Yeah, we won that game, but the point is, they were charging fans more money to get into a pre-season friendly. It's just ridiculous. It's not a competitive match. Show your fans a bit of respect. They don't clearly have any respect for us, so why should we respect them? We hate them, to be honest. Any fan, I can't fucking stand any of them. As I've said before, they're so fucking lazy, all these people at the club. They've been there for ages and they've never done anything in terms of ambition for Celtic Football Club since they've been there. All they care about is domestically, which, to some people, that's what they want, and that's what they want only. That's fine, but don't shove your opinion down other people's throats and tell us we're all wrong. Be happy that we're winning domestically, but don't moan about anything else. It's ridiculous. The board think we should just shut up and not criticise them. That's not how it works. They don't own the club, really. They seem to think they do. They seem to think that they know absolutely everything about the club, and everything they do is for the best of the club. It's not. It's for the best interest of them. That's the problem. They make it all about them. They're the biggest negative every single season. They're the constant at this club. It doesn't matter if Brendan Rodgers is in charge, Neil Lennon, Ange Postecoglou, doesn't matter who it is. They're always the bad negative in the background every single time. We're just waiting for them to fuck something up. They always do. I don't think we'll sign any other players. We're close to getting Ange Balaguisha. That might go through, but, with Celtic, you've always got doubts. You really have. If we get our Balaguisha over the line, even if we go out and sign 5 players next week, and we somehow beat Kira Almaty, and we beat Rangers next week, we beat Livingston on Saturday as well, this should not be acceptable still. The fact the board fucked about, yet again, gambled with the Champions League money. It's ridiculous. Because you know what they're going to do, and if we get in, and we sign a few players, they'll still go out. Next season, we're going to be in the same problem. We're going to be in the same situation where they're not taking it seriously enough, which they don't. They don't take it seriously enough. They don't care about European competition. How about we just renew our licence then? Not renew our licence, take our licence away from European competitions then, because what's the fucking point? If the board are never going to invest in Europe, they make it pretty obvious they're not fucking interested in European competitions. We shouldn't be in it, as far as I'm concerned. That's very hard for me to say, because I want Celtic to be the best they can be. I'm not saying that we should go out and win it. That's not what I'm saying. Maybe the Europa League. I'm just looking at Rangers, and they made it to 2 European finals, and they've been liquidated and had financial problems, and they've still got to a European final twice. It's outrageous that we haven't done that. And yet we've got more money than them. We've been in the top flight of Scottish football consistently. And the board have never pushed on. But yeah, it's tiring. It's annoying. It's frustrating. There's a lot of reasons. Reasons why I can't fucking stand these people. But the problem is, it's not my fault. It's not the fans' fault. It's theirs. They're the problem at the club. This has been going on, like I said, for over 20 years. All the way back to Gordon Strachan, even towards the end of Martin O'Neill's time at Celtic Football Club, which was an amazing time. There was problems happening with this board. Dermot Desmond has been on the board since '95. That's outrageous. That guy should be nowhere near our football club. Doesn't care about us. All he's interested in is playing golf. He's just a lazy bastard. Peter Lawwell, again, should be nowhere near Celtic Football Club. Sharon Brown needs to go. You've got other people like Chris Mackay as well. All these people, Michael Nicholson, all these people have never said a word to us. You've got shareholders in the club who I've never heard them say anything about Celtic since they've had shares. That's outrageous. If you're a shareholder, you should be coming out and saying why you've bought shares in a company or a football club or whatever, but these people never do. And they need to go. They need to go. Will they go? Sadly, it's hard, to get rid of the boards. Like I said, all these things I've suggested, I would do personally if I was the fans. But it is very hard when we're winning as well, domestically. And we're in the green, as they say, financially. I don't buy that. If you're in the green, you can't get rid of the people running your football club. I don't think that's true at all. I think you can still get rid of them and make change. Personally, Peter Lawwell, for example, he brought his son in to be the head of recruitment. That proves how unbelievably thick these people actually are. It's an old pals act. It's a job for the boys. It's ridiculous. And yeah, it's just outrageous. It may take us losing the league on a regular basis for these people to go. People will talk about the Whites and the Kellys from the 1990s and how bad they were. This board, they're complete opposite to the Whites and the Kellys. The Whites and the Kellys went about it in the wrong way and bankrupted the club nearly, basically. But, these people are rich. Yeah, you could argue they've done a decent job for the club in terms of a financial standpoint as a business. But they're the complete opposite. They're catch rich. They have no excuse for not spending money at all, for European competition. Trying to make Celtic better, try and make it the best it can be. Make us a European force again. But we won't ever have that again with these people in charge. I'm sorry, but they're the main reason why things just don't go according to plan in the qualifiers. And, loads of reasons. Players pissing about and transfers and salaries. It's all down to them. They make the experience at the stadium a misery for people. The food's terrible, apparently. They charge people more money when it's not included in the season ticket. It's just ridiculous. Blocking people from getting out of the stadium. There's a lot of things they do just to annoy people, just to cause an argument with us. They just do it all the time. And the thing is, we're going to react because we want what's best. We're the people who generally do care, just like the manager does, just like the players do. Some of the players aren't good enough, but that's not their fault. They've been put in that situation because the board haven't given the manager the tools to improve the quality of the squad. And yeah, it's a shame. It's just outrageous that the boards treat us like this. They're just, I don't know what else to say. They're such a joke to us. They really are. But yeah, that's my reaction to the people who run this club. They're an absolute fucking sack of shit, basically. They're full of stupid cunts who know nothing about football. They're all businessmen. That's what pisses me off, with these people who buy football clubs. You get people in there who all they care about is the financial aspect. If the boards had people in there who were financial advisors and they just done the financial aspect and they actually gave the football operations to someone who actually knew about fucking football, this wouldn't be such a big problem. But, they don't even have a director of football. Everyone else does apart from us. It's ridiculous. If we had a director of football, then the board could fuck off and focus on the financial aspect, which is all they fucking care about, which, to be honest, you want the club to be sustainable financially, but do you really think people give a fuck about how much money we've got in the bank? They brag about it every single fucking year. Oh, we made this amount of money this year from the fans who, by the way, we don't give a fucking shit about. Give us your money and shut the fuck up. That's literally their attitude. Do you really think the fans give a fuck about, you building a new museum outside in a fucking hotel? Who gives a fuck about that? I certainly fucking don't. It's ridiculous. I want new fucking players on the pitch. I want people in the fucking team who are going to make us better, or at least have a go in Europe. If we went to the Europa League quarter-final every year, for example, or semi-final, maybe even the final, and we were like European regulars, I'd be delighted with that. And then I wouldn't have to complain about these people, just like thousands of other people do, you know, because I'm just so sick and tired of them. Will that happen with these in charge? No, I highly doubt it. People seem to think as well that some people seem to think these people are generally Celtic fans. They're not Celtic fans, like I said. They're not Celtic fans. They're greedy businessmen who like to take money off of you for no fucking reason, you know, other than to put it in their back pocket, you know. They make the experience miserable for the fans at the stadium. You know, this is not just a Celtic transfer problem. You know, the stadium's falling to pieces. The board are not investing because they're fucking cheap and lazy as fuck. It's too much for them to do, in their opinion. You know, it's outrageous. You know, making the experience miserable for fans. You know, shitty food. You know, why I would have, that's another thing. Don't buy anything from the stadium, you know, in terms of merchandise, but also, you know, don't buy food from them, for fuck's sake. Just don't give them anything, you know, that goes to them. You know, even if you buy a hot dog at Celtic Park, which they probably lift the prices up to a point where it's just outrageous. You know, season ticket prices again as well, they lifted that up higher this season because they want the fans to keep giving them money whilst they're fleecing the fans. It's outrageous. You know, they're fleecing the fans. They're deceiving the fans. They're just an absolute joke. But yeah, that's my reaction to the board and how to get rid of them. You know, I think this is about the third or fourth time I've made a video about the board in the last 12 months because they're just an absolute fucking travesty to this club. They're a major problem, as I said. Nothing will ever get better until they leave. You know, they're not making the club any better every single season. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. I'll do a reaction to the Livingston game over the weekend. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.